Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Late Night Spook Show. I am your host, Raymond, and today we will be talking about Let Me In, the 2010 remake of the Swedish coming of age vampire story. But we won't be referencing the Swedish one or the book or the differences of between the two. This is going to be Let Me In on its own, just because comparing them is a whole other monster that isn't really basically, I just want this one to be just about the American one. And the reason I watched the American one first is just because I feel like it'd be a little more accessible in the sense that people will actually know what it is. Not that anyone doesn't know what the Swedish one is. Just, I don't know, a lot of stuff like that. Just that kind of thing. I'm trying to keep it normal for now before I get too weird, I guess. And even though this one isn't exactly, the most well known, people would still probably know about it. I'll try not to ramble on, I suppose. But I don't know, I guess just the purpose of this is just an audio diary of trying to get out my thoughts of just the things I watch, and I guess it helps break me out of my normal, watching the same thing or the same type of thing. Even though this movie is just it's funny, I was watching it obviously, but I was thinking during watching it that this is just Moonrise Kingdom plus vampires. And if you are familiar with Moonrise Kingdom, I would hope you would agree, I guess, but doesn't really matter at that point. It felt like that, a lot of coming of age stories with younger, I guess, well, obviously kids, but when you're like 12, 13, kind of coming of age is different from, Lady Bird at like 17 or 18 coming of age. And they tend to feel relatively the same, which I don't know how popular of an opinion that is, but try not to ramble too much. And see here. Yeah, no. Matt Reeves always does a good job. Whether it be Planet of the Apes or Godzilla, Cloverfield, all that good stuff. But it felt good. Like it was a good. I guess I'm trying to think of the way to word this. But basically, it was a good slowdown for him, I guess, because a lot of his movies are slower, but then they pick up and kind of go off the walls a little bit. But really, it didn't go any more off the walls than it should have. There were a few moments though where music was, I wouldn't say overused, I would say drawn out. As an example, we'll use the scene when Abby's in the bathroom, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here. It was one of my first thoughts, and it's been bothering me just because it happened a few times. We'll go back. I'm doing the 2 weeks later thing, similar to the movie, without even realizing it. Well, I guess now I'm realizing it, but drawn out in the sense that, I mean, as a seasoned detective or assumed to be seasoned detective, I feel like he was going too slow. Trying to pace it with the music, which is very frustrating because, I mean, really, it doesn't need to do that. It just needs to happen because you break the tension by drawing it. I mean, personally, I think most of the time when you try to create tension by making it longer, it loses the tension because you're waiting for it. And then by the time you kind of are like, oh, it's not gonna happen, it happens, and you already are over it. But let's go to the beginning. I don't mean to 2 weeks later you, because I don't appreciate that. But so Let Me In is a coming of age vampire story, as I kind of probably already said earlier. I'm trying not to repeat myself, but it's a rambling forum. Podcasts aren't, you can ramble on a podcast, but it is about 12-year-old, quote quote 12-year-old Abby and actually 12-year-old Owen in the 80s in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which I didn't know it snowed there at all, and I was very surprised to sit and every time I would see snow, I'm like, this is New Mexico, it doesn't snow, but then regionally I looked at it and it does, which probably sounds dumb, but I was bothered for a minute, but then I was like, whatever. They kind of, I feel like making it snow was kind of on purpose with some references to the Swedish one, which I will try to stop referencing. I'm really trying to make this about Let Me In because it really does. The American remakes always stand on their own, and I would say, I don't even know percentage. I would say most of the time they're not good. I do like this one. I technically haven't seen the Swedish one, but I know a lot about it and have seen a lot of clips, know a lot about the book, and it was different but the same, which is fine. It's an American remake. It doesn't have to be. They could have just copied and pasted the whole movie and done it in English, and it still probably would have been just as good. But it is nice to see some changes, even if they don't really, even if it kind of loses the depth. It's nice to see changes, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. So I'm just gonna kind of run through the plot here a little bit and try not to ramble. I'm trying to keep it. I should have written an outline now that I'm thinking about it, but it's okay because mind your business. But I'll probably write an outline for further episodes or whatnot and try not to ramble. But I'm a talker, and this is what I'm into, so I'm gonna ramble and talk. And also just to kind of bring it back, a little bit of just kind of because is the first episode. I kind of want to get some things out of the way, I guess. This isn't going to be an in-depth look at how much it made with the actors, all that stuff. That doesn't matter, like in the grand scheme of the movie, the film, whatever you want to call it, the art piece. Most of the time when I watch stuff like this, I mean, I watch it because I'm seeing it as art more than money, or because like I recognize actors and things like that, like Chloe Moretz. I never know how to say her name. Obviously, she's I don't want to call her a scream queen, but she's basically a scream queen or whatever. But like, this isn't about her. This is about the movie. This is about the story. I'm trying to kind of hammer that in. This is just essentially an audio diary of my ramblings about the things I watch and what I feel about them and all that stuff. So if you're looking for a more in-depth, I guess like the behind the scenes, I guess, that's not going to be here. This is just, the movie, probably a couple of deviations of like, oh, I've seen this actress or actor before, but not really. I don't really like, I care, but I don't care. It's like I said, it's just about the movie. This is about the story. This is the story. This is what it's going to be about. This is what it is about, that kind of thing. So it's audio diary is the best way to put it. It's just personal thoughts about the story, movie or not. It's the story. We'll kind of run down the plot a little bit, and yeah, I guess just kind of talk about any issues or any of that good stuff. And I have it pulled up on Wikipedia in front of me just for reference. So I mean, I did watch the movie, but I'm going to reference here just to kind of keep it as concise as possible. And all that good stuff. So let's get into it. So we start off with it doesn't say it in here, but well, I guess it does say it in here. But at the beginning, when I think they still kept his name as Hakan or Hakan. I don't think they said it out loud, unless I missed it, but I was having some audio issues just because on Max, this is where I watched it, by the way. I watched this on Max in case you want to watch it yourself or anything like that. I'm going to try to, like I said, I'm going to write a better outline for the next one just to keep it concise, but I'm going to kind of let you guys know, where I watched it, or if I have it, because I have a lot just, bought on my own and all that stuff, but this was on Max. And their audio is just, I wouldn't say garbage, it's just really quiet. Like I had to turn the soundbar up to about, 50 something when normally it's at like 20 or 30 something, if that gives you kind of reference of audio issues. But I think they still left his name's Hakan. I don't know why I can't find it. Da-da-da-da. No, they made him Thomas. Okay, cool. Because I was going to say in the other search I did of Let Me In, it came up as Hakan. It was weird, but it showed the correct actor and everything. The dad from Step Brothers is your Thomas. And so it kind of begins with, an unnamed person being taken to the hospital for chemical burns, which were, we kind of find out they were self-inflicted. There was an incident, a whole car situation, whole car being flipped, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And the detective tries to kind of interview him, even though he can't talk. And later when they show his face, it's very clear why. But he just kind of sits there and lets the detective do his thing, and it's the same detective that comes back. It's not like they switch detectives or anything like that. It doesn't start off with one and go into the other, blah blah blah. But he kind of is like, get it off your chest. We'll find out eventually, essentially, trying to, I guess, bait him into giving information, because obviously at the time they had none, even though not that they're incapable. It's just make it easier on everyone, basically, which he does not. He just kind of sits there and waits until he leaves. Then he writes his little note to Abby, which she didn't see it that I'm aware of, that just says, "I'm sorry, Abby." And then it seems like he jumps out of the window. And then we do our little 2 weeks earlier cut, which personally I'm not a fan of. I don't like the time jump thing, in that sense, just because it feels like a YouTube video trying to get your attention, where they show you something interesting and then they put that interesting part in the middle or the end for you to kind of be like, oh, to kind of suck you in, basically grab you, which nothing's wrong with an attention grabber. But when it's one like that, it just feels wrong because you're showing me something that I don't necessarily, I guess, want to see yet. I want to see it in the full scope of the story, because then it just takes it away and makes it mean less. It makes it not meaningless, because it still has meaning and it still is a part of the story that's, relatively valuable. That's why they're using it as an attention grabber. It feels like you're showing me too much too early out of context, and then I'm gonna have to, either you're gonna have to show me it again, which is super annoying, similar to when explosions happen multiple times and they show you angles and they keep replaying the explosion on the different angles. I don't like that either. But I want to see everything together in chronological order as much as possible. Some things you don't have to necessarily. I don't have an example at the moment, um, that I can kind of pull from. But there are times when it is, it works. It doesn't give you too much information. It kind of alludes for sure, but without giving too much information. But with this, it gives you too much information about, obviously something happens or, to lead up to him disfiguring himself with acid and killing himself. But I digress, I suppose. But I'm not a fan of that, and it's frustrating to see it so much. I guess just it feels like YouTube culture, even though this is 2010. So it's kind of, I guess YouTube stole it from this or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. Not a fan. Not a fan. It ruins it. It pulls you out. Similar to the drawn out music. But well, let's keep it moving here. And then it goes from the 2 weeks earlier, and then we find Owen, which is played by the voice of Paranorman, Cody Smith McPhee, who, in the nicest way possible, is such a weird looking person. Not in this so much, because I mean he's a child, I guess, and kids can look weird, but I don't know. I'm weird, and I thought he looked weird, so I felt like I needed to share that for some reason. But we see Owen, he's getting Carrie style bullied and all this stuff, and his parents are kind of not there. They don't really even show his mom more than like her asleep or her talking. Like her face is blurred out the whole time, and it's funny because it's the mom from it's one of the moms from Stranger Things, which is kind of funny. Especially with it taking place in the 80s again. I thought that was a little funny. It just kind of happens, but just funny little things. But I mean, like, really, we kind of just hear her voice, see her blurred out, just because the focus is on him, obviously, because the whole movie's about him. It makes sense. It kind of keeps the focus on him, which is nothing's wrong with that. But it just kind of shows no one's really there for him. Even I mean, the gym teacher, I would say, is a neutral party, but like no one's really there for him except Abby, which kind of, is going to be a good, well, for Abby, since she's such, I would call her the ultimate predator, I suppose. She's essentially, I guess, interviewing him for the job of familiar, because Thomas, we found out later, Thomas wasn't. I mean, I would say he's a good familiar, I guess, with how long he's been doing it, but I mean, he was getting sloppy for whatever reason. He kind of alludes to it himself when they were, she was yelling at him, basically, like, how am I going to eat? What am I going to do? He kind of was alluding to maybe he was eating tired, maybe he just is over it, I mean, being a vampire's familiar for, let's call it 40, 50 years is probably rough, because you're essentially just a weird serial killer that has to deal with all this guilt and all this. It's just a lot. You have to deal with a lot, especially with such a, I guess, young vampire. Just because it's certain vampires, I would say you can be like, oh, this is my wife. My wife is weird. Blah blah blah. It's with a daughter. It's weirder because people look out for kids more, which is good. Nothing's wrong with that. It is, for his situation, it makes it harder. So you can tell it was wearing on him, either the guilt or just the nature of the business, I suppose. But no, back to Owen. Sorry, again, I digress. I'm a rambler, but there's just a lot of, I have a lot of thoughts at all times. Let's put it that way. There's too much going on thought wise. But we find Owen, who's getting, Carrie level bullied. They're not relenting, and it shows later the bullies are being bullied, blah blah. Of course, cycle of abuse, all that good stuff. Most people are, being abused, and same kind of stereotype as the bully is really the only one kind of pushing it, because without the one, his little followers wouldn't be there. And then back to Owen and Abby. See, like I said, I digress. She kind of encourages him to fight back. She tells him, hit harder, keep hitting, basically just keep hitting and hit harder, and eventually they'll give up. When you're not worth the fight, they'll give up. Which I would, that's probably a evolutionary thing, I guess. Like a back of the mind kind of thing. If something's fighting harder, just kind of leave it alone, or I guess try harder. I don't know. But she basically tells him, do something to get them off of you, because they will not relent. Which we find out they really don't relent until she straight up murders them at the end. Which, spoiler, if you haven't seen this movie, maybe you shouldn't listen to a podcast talking about it. But I guess it's up to you. A lot of people watch Dead Meat and don't even watch the movies, but it helps to watch it. You don't have to watch it. This is more of a companion piece to kind of get my thoughts out there, but they don't really matter. I mean, you don't have to see it if you don't want to. It just helps. If you want to see it, you can see it. I'm the one who likes to see it and then hear about it, talk about it, all that stuff. But that's just me. But then Owen basically shows Abby Morse code, and then teaches her, not them, teaches her how to communicate through the wall. I suppose, not that she, I guess, wouldn't have figured something out, but that's just the way he figured out in his 12-year-old brain, which is actually a very good way, because it does come in handy for them. At least, in the 80s, they granted they could have gotten walkie-talkies, I guess, but then that opens up a lot of nonsense. And then kind of during all this, when their first couple interactions are, just he thinks she's normal, blah blah. Obviously, all that stuff. That's her dad. But all this time he, out just kind of getting blood for her, which makes him a pseudo serial killer at that point, where he's just kind of in the back of the car, waiting, and then they go out to the woods after he, either I'm gonna say he doesn't stab them. I'm gonna say he kind of chokes them out and brings them to the woods to drain them. But he ended up the first one he ended up spilling literally everything. Like it rolled down the hill cartoon style. Not exactly cartoon style, but like that's how I thought of it. Was like it just kept rolling where it's like why why is it rolling so much? But basically from the first kill he gets nothing and everyone's kind of on edge after that, community wise, at least a little bit. And then that's when they have their big fight, and they kind of talk about it, them meaning Abby and Owen kind of talk about it, like, why are you guys fighting? And she doesn't really talk about it, which is fine. She has all the power. And then, it's I wouldn't say filler, but I wouldn't say anything in between that necessarily happens. Like a lot of it is kind of just like showing Owen at school, and he's just kind of getting bullied still, and like him slowly, learning to fight back. Like when he smacks the main guy who's kind of messing with him, he smacks him in the ear and really cuts his ear. It's insane, the cut from that pole. I would assume it would do that, but I don't know what kind of pole like slices your ear like that. It's a good slice. It was very good retaliation. But on the I believe only the second person that Thomas tries to get their blood for Abby is when he gets discovered, which is kind of funny because like honestly, like halfway in the movie it seems is when Thomas, the sulfuric acid and the Thomas incident happens. And then we're finally showed in context of what happened, and it ended up that she came to see him in the hospital, and basically he was like, like, I'm sorry, here, feed off of me real quick. And then he kind of, I don't know if she did it. I don't think she did it. I think he kind of, felt that it was time. And after, putting his neck out the window and she's kind of drinking his blood, he falls out of the window. But it looks, I don't think she did it. It's just smooth where he's kind of like, it's time. Maybe he passed out from blood loss or whatever. And he falls out of the window, and the detective runs back in because it's the whole thing. And she's kind of there in outside of the window, but he doesn't see her. And then she goes to see Owen, and kind of like she sleeps over basically, and like not in a weird way, just in kind of like, their kids laying their way, you know what I mean? Like I don't want that to sound wrong, like weird or anything like that, but basically, she spends the night, and they kind of have a small conversation about like, will you be my girlfriend? And she's like, I'm not a girl. And he's kind of, obviously like, what do you mean you're not a girl? And she says that she's nothing, I guess kind of alluding to obviously the vampirism of she is nothing, in the sense of like she will not have a place in society. I suppose that's how I understood that. I thought that line was pretty interesting when she said I'm nothing, because that was my first thought. I was like, so basically she's saying like basically she is for nothing, essentially. All she is for blood and destruction, which not incorrect. And it kind of alludes to in the book and in the original movie, she is not a girl. Obviously she's a vampire, but she's not a girl. She is a boy who was castrated around when he was, turned into a vampire. They don't really show how old or say how old she is in here, but in the other, in the book and the suite, I'm trying so hard not to reference both of those, but I feel like that was an important distinction, that she is a castrated boy. And she kind of alludes to that earlier too, when they were hanging out hanging out as friends one of the first times, where she was kind of like, would you like me if I wasn't a girl? Similar to the nothing conversation, but in actuality she's being serious, kind of letting him know like, hey, I'm not a girl. And I mean, honestly, the kid doesn't care. The kid just wants somebody to be there. The kid he needs help, in the sense of just someone needs to be there for him, because like early in the movie he was doing some weird serial killer stuff, which it looked weird, but then a few minutes later it's him trying to, I guess, pretend to stand up to the bullies, on his own. And it makes sense, but at first I was like, wow, there's kids straight up serial killer too. But no, it was kind of him just practicing in the mirror, to try and fight back, I guess, try to practice fighting back at least. And he had a knife and a weird mask on. But no, similar to the nothing conversation, it's very correct that she is not a girl. Whether you took that as that or not, I guess is up to you. And if you know the other, if you know the source material, it makes sense. But if you don't, it's just kind of a weird, oh, she's saying I'm a vampire, but really she's not saying that. She's saying, "Hey, I'm a little boy." Again, he doesn't care. He just needs someone to be there for him, whether that, is a protector, friend, whatever. He just needs somebody. And that's what a lot of this is just he just needs someone there, someone to kind of be on his side. And nothing's wrong with that. It's just the way that it ends up for him. I guess in the way it ends up for him, it's fine. But a lot of times that's when, like, let's talk about Kevin comes out, but this one's not so much that. He truly does care for her, and vice versa, all that good stuff. And after the strange little, not strange, just the conversation of basically like, "Hey, will you be my girlfriend?" And she kind of is like, "Does anything change?" He tells her, "No, we're still gonna be friends, everything normal." And she's like, "Fine, I'll be your girlfriend," but not in a resentful way. She's just kind of, she doesn't understand. Similar to the Rubik's Cube, she didn't know what a Rubik's Cube was, which, I mean, why would she? But a lot of things she just generally doesn't know. Like, generally and genuinely doesn't know. It's not that she's, malicious or any way. She's really not. Like, yeah, she's a violent vampire, but that's just an animal, similar to like a werewolf, I would guess. It's just an animal instinct at that point. So she doesn't die. It's more of a self-preservation thing. She is a very caring character, at least towards him. And I mean, even towards Thomas a little bit. But then after that, that's the day that Owen kind of fights back. And that's when he hits the bully in the head, splitting his ear. Like, it literally split in half. It's rough. Like, I was like, oh, he's just yelling because a guy hit in the head with the pole, and then they showed the ear, and I'm like, okay, now, because at first it's like, oh, he's being a little bitch, trying to get our boy Owen in trouble, but no, that shit looked like it hurt so fucking bad. Like, it's not even funny. I mean, it is a little funny because it's a movie, but I digress. And that's when they find the second body, and it's the weightlifter guy that Owen was spying on earlier. It was him the whole time, I guess. I mean, I kind of missed that, I'm gonna be honest, and because I thought when the cops were there looking through his stuff that something had happened inside. I kind of missed that it was him, but it also was there was a lot of dark. Like, yeah, they showed his face a few times and all that stuff, but I was kind of more distracted by Thomas, hiding in the car. But yeah, and then that's when they find the body. So Owen kind of gets off, I guess. Gets off in the, not like weird, that sounded weird. He gets off, yeah, gets out of trouble, let's put it that way. He gets out of trouble, at least in the moment. He almost gets suspended over it, but like, really, if he would have spoken up for himself, it would have probably helped his situation. But again, I mean, kid's just a shell. He needs help, all that good stuff. He's not gonna be speaking up for himself. He barely defended himself, let alone yelling at an adult in his mind. And then that's when Owen does a blood pact with Abby, which it seems like a very 80s and before thing to do, because, like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of older actually actually older movies from the 80s themselves, or just movies in the 80s or 70s or whatever. A lot of blood pacts seem to be happening, so I don't know why people seem to associate blood pact with, I mean, like, I guess it shows commitment, but I mean, I don't understand it, but whatever, I'm just stupid, I guess. He tries to do a blood pact with Abby, thinking, this will solidify their relationship, which I guess it could, at least to a degree. But she sees his blood, and obviously, her being a vampire, she kind of, she drops to the floor and starts licking the blood that's been dropping. Because, vampire-free blood, why not? And also, it looks like in this, I guess let's call it this universe, in this universe's vampire lore, they can't eat food, it seems, because we see that earlier when she, tries to eat the candy and ends up throwing up a little bit. But it seems like this universe's vampires have very little control, I guess. Not that, I mean, I guess it could be a personal thing, but it seemed like she had less control just by the sight of blood. Like, yeah, she needs it, but it seems more of an instinct where it just kind of turns on sometimes. Not all vampires, I guess, are like that, at least. I don't know. But she kind of tells him to stay away, and then she runs past him out of this kind of like abandoned apartment hangout that they that he showed her that night to do the blood pact, because it was important to him, and that's kind of a sacred place in his mind. And so he took her to a sacred place to kind of do something serious, and that's when he kind of unknowingly reveals her vampirism. And then a day, the next night after, because he was kind of freaked out, and then he kind of gets the courage the next night to kind of go talk to her and figure it out. So he kind of goes to her apartment, and it was funny. He does the "you gotta let me in" thing like a vampire, I guess, because he probably, I don't know. I just thought it was but he kind of goes in, talking to her, looking around her apartment, just trying to figure it out, talk to her, see what it's about, see if she really is a vampire. Because I mean, he saw her eyes, he saw like her teeth, he saw it. Basically, he knows, he assumes, and he wants to find out. So he goes there to find out, and kind of sees all the evidence. that she is who she says she is, at least, whether that be, super old or whatnot. He sees the picture of a young, I don't like how they don't say it, but reading the Wikipedia, it says it. And I assumed it was at the time. Um, Basically, there's an old, it looks like the ones where you'd go to a carnival and you'd go sit in the booth, like a photo booth, and get the, strips of pictures. It looks like that, but it's obviously, super old, probably from the, I don't know, 40s, 50s, whatever. Because, I mean, age wise, he was minimum 50 something, I would say. So that'd be a good, like, 30 years, whatever, before, let's call it, we'll just say the 50s. And it's obviously aged from the 50s, just by the look of kind of his shirt, his glasses, and they don't, like I said, they don't say it, but it is said here, and I kind of thought that it was a young Thomas, meaning like essentially been her familiar his whole life, and she obviously didn't age, in the picture. It was just looks exactly how she looks now, granted. And then it freaks out Owen because obviously the evidence of her being a vampire is some heavy stuff to just drop on this kid, just this kid who needs something, and a vampire maybe wasn't what he was looking for. He wants help, family, companionship, whatever he needs. Vampire wasn't necessarily on that list of I need it. Yes, a friend, but freaks him out. He gets out of there, but she kind of weirdly blocks him, I guess. Obviously she doesn't want him to go because she's just kind of like, hey, understand me, we're friends still, all that stuff. But he doesn't want to stay, which is fine, which is fair. So she blocks the way, and he's kind of like, what are you gonna do to me? And she relents because she doesn't want to hurt him, she doesn't do anything. And I guess she was scared maybe what he would alert people to, but he didn't alert anyone to it. I didn't think he would. And then the next, I guess not the next night, no, it's not the next night, I'm just dumb, it's later that night. Later that night he goes and spends the night there, and then our detective from earlier in the movie, he comes and he's knocking on the door again because someone was like, hey, that guy lives here, the Thomas, the neighbor said that Thomas lives here. And who was it? It was the one chick that gets attacked, the neighbor that gets attacked with the dog. I skipped over that, I realize that now. It was during the blood pact situation when Abby runs away. She goes up into a tree basically and sees her coming and kind of attacks her and turns into a vampire. Not not on purpose necessarily, but she was just feeding off her after that kind of feeding frenzy. Think of it as like a shark with a feeding frenzy. She kind of had that feeding frenzy, did that, attacked her, didn't attack the boyfriend or husband or whatever. And in the hospital, she meaning, I think her name is Virginia. Yeah, I'm seeing her here, Virginia. There it is. She kind of wakes up after the detective pulls the husband or whatever out to talk, or boyfriend, whatever you want to call it, whatever they are, to talk. And she kind of, obviously her eyes are the color, the gold vampire color. She starts, which I don't understand how this makes sense. She starts drinking her own blood out of her arm, but I don't know how that would work, like as a vampire, because like, is it like the water cycle where it just recycles? It's like, I don't understand. I'm not saying it was going to make sense, but that's one thing I looked at and was like, how would that make sense? I guess from a true standpoint, like obviously it's not going to work over time, I don't think, but it was a weird choice. Let's put it that way. I thought it was a weird choice. It made sense for sure because she saw the little blood from the IV, so it made sense. It was I was thinking about it and it was strange. But the nurse comes in, kind of in between that, just to kind of be like, hey, good morning, and open the windows and all that stuff, see how she's doing, all that good stuff. And this, not the second, but pretty quickly, essentially instantly opening the window, she bursts into flames because it was just that, that much sunlight that quickly. The nurse is on fire, she's on fire, the detective's holding him back, holding the husband or boyfriend or whatever back. It's a whole thing. That was another part I had an issue with, music wise, is I don't know, the music just felt out of place and it felt forced and it felt fast. It made it go faster, I suppose. Like I don't know, it felt wrong there for some reason. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. That's another spot where the music, it didn't work. Something was wrong. It felt forced, something like that. But then back to Owen and Abby. Sorry, I had forgotten that part. Like I said, I'll write a better outline future wise. I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. But I have a lot of thoughts at all times, and they just kind of keep bumbling around. That's all. But back to Owen and Abby. We have our detective knocking on the door again. And Owen is there, awake. He finds a note saying, from Abby, basically saying like, do you want to hang out tonight? I'm in the bathroom, because that's kind of where her trunk. No, her trunk's not in the bathroom. I just thought about it. Sorry. Basically that's her bedroom. Let's put it that way, because it's a nice, it's a good small room that you can kind of block a lot of sun out easily, even though it's, I don't know. I don't know why she chose that, I guess, is my weird, I don't know. But basically she's using that as her bedroom because sunlight obviously would kill her. And we have a detective kind of bumbling in, not bumbling in, but he's knocking and Owen goes to see through the peephole what's going on. And the floor creaks, so the detective is like, well, someone's here. I'm gonna get in. We're gonna, because got a lot of issues to solve here. And so he breaks down the door. Owen's hiding, and kind of watching the detective around the apartment, kind of not bumble around. I don't mean to say bumbling, but that's just the best way to kind of put it. Not the best way, but the detective's kind of searching around, seeing what's going on. He finds the note, so he's going to go into the bathroom. He thinks it's a satanic cult or something like that, which 80s satanic panic, whatever. I guess it's just strange. I don't know, but like I understand why they did it. I don't know where that would even come from. Just mindset, I guess. But I'm not in that mindset to think that, so I guess that's why. So he ends up going towards the bathroom because he read the note. Someone's in there. I'm gonna go get them. Either get them, save them, or get them, kill them. Kind of get them. And that's where our long, drawn out music was when he's gonna open the door, and it felt wrong there too because you're breaking the tension by trying to heighten the tension. You end up breaking it. That's all. That's just how I feel about that one. But so he opens the door and he pulls back, all these layers of blankets or comforters or whatever they are, and sees her, and he's kind of like, oh no, we gotta do something here. So he kind of pulls some of he goes to pull some of the cardboard off of the window so that he can see, obviously, and because the light doesn't work in there. And Owen stops him, kind of on time, kind of not. He kind of pulls it, and then Owen says no, because obviously Owen's hiding, so Owen pops out and he scares him. But during that kind of few second pull on the cardboard, Abby gets burned. Like she gets like some boils, it kind of burns her leg, so she wakes up, and when she wakes up, she starts attacking him and just shreds him like crazy. And Owen kind of he's looking at Owen, and he reaches for Owen, and Owen just not Owen reaches as well, but he reaches to close the door because it's just a lot. The kid's 12. He doesn't have an easy time. This is a lot. So he kind of closes the door, and she hugs him. She hugs him and kind of just is like, I gotta get out of here. Obvious reasons. It's all going to shit. This isn't working. I have to leave. And they kind of, she gives him a little kiss, bloody, crazy kiss. Looks like, lipstick on him. And he just kind of goes back to it, the next night, either, I guess not that night because it's the morning. I'm so sorry. But that night, he kind of he's going back to doing his strength training at school that he was, he had signed up for earlier to try, get a one up on the bullies, I guess. But granted, it's not going to work. It's good for him to do things. Let's put it that way. It's not going to work, but it's good that he got out of the house. And the bullies set a decoy fire so they can go in and essentially drown him. Basically, the whole plan is to drown him or cut his ear off, to kind of make up for him splitting the other kid's ear, because it's the one kid's older brother, and he's just balls to the wall at that point. And during the whole essentially drowning him thing, they basically tell him, hold your breath or we're gonna cut your ear off. So during him holding his breath, it's not really shown until later, at least not. It's the aftermath. Let's put it that way. It's just it's from his perspective under the water the whole time. Abby comes in and just shreds everyone to pieces, just cutting heads, arms, just done. And she kind of, she saves him. And then when he comes out of the water, she goes to him and is kind of like, not hugs, but kind of like, is obviously there, like touching him, like, hey, it's okay, we're good. And then we have our next shot of them on the on the train getting out of town. She's in the biggest trunk possible. I don't know if she can turn into a bat or what, but like I don't like the large trunk. I thought it was a little excessive just from a practicality standpoint, but I guess that doesn't matter because it's vampire, it's not real anyways. But I looked at the trunk as, how is he going to carry this? How, just a lot of questions. And if she can even turn into a bat, like if she can turn into a bat, why use such a large trunk? I don't know. I thought that was such a strange, I guess, way to do it. Like, yeah, the trunk would be necessary, at least inside for sure, just to kind of keep the, the sun out and keep her, I guess, contained in case something goes wrong or blah, 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 whatever. But to kind of travel in, it seems strange in the sense of, can she even turn into a bat in a smaller one to make it easier on him? I had a weird thing with that, but I think I overthought it. But I mean, like overall, it's a very good movie. It essentially was Moonrise Kingdom plus vampires, but in a good way, in a very good way. And I would recommend it. I would say watch it. You know, if you're into that, if you like the idea of it, go for it. I'm trying to think. I would say I got all my thoughts out. I think I if I missed something, I'm sure. Hey, just let me know. Who cares? Let me know. I think I got all my thoughts out. Just it's a lot. Just so many thoughts at all times. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for rambling. I'm gonna do a better outline. But yeah, no, overall that one was really good. I was very pleased. I was very happy I watched it. I recommend it, all that good stuff. This is the first episode. Let's put it that way. This is the first episode. Hopefully this will get better. We'll get more concise, less rambly, but I just have a lot of thoughts at all times, and it's nice to get them out. So, thank you for listening. Go follow the Instagram. I'm probably gonna put this on YouTube as well, just to kind of get whatever going on there. The YouTube and the Instagram are at the Late Night Spook Show. No spaces, no nothing, just one word, the Late Night Spook Show. And thank you, rate, review, all that good stuff. Do all that good stuff. And thank you for listening.